In the shadow of the black sun, humanity was reborn. The black sun rose without warning. It appeared on the edge of the solar system like a dark wound carved into space, a sphere that swallowed light instead of giving it. It was not a star. It was not a planet. It was something else, something ancient, powerful, and completely unknown. For many, it was the end of everything humanity had ever understood. For others, it was the beginning. This is the story of what happened when the black sun entered our skies, and how humanity died, changed, and found a new shape in its impossible shadow. It began on a quiet morning in late spring. People were going to work, drinking tea, scrolling through their phones, and arguing about small things that seemed important at the time. The real sun had barely risen when the first satellites picked up an anomaly. At first, scientists thought it was a data error. The object approaching the solar system reflected no light, emitted no heat, and created no patterns known to physics. It was like a hole moving through the universe. Within hours, it was given a name: the black sun. When it became visible to telescopes, the world changed. Governments issued warnings. News channels filled with frightened voices. Citizens stared at the strange dark orb drifting closer every day. But the real shock came when astronomers realized something even stranger. The black sun was slowing down. Objects in space did not slow unless something controlled them. Someone, or something, was guiding it. Animals sensed it first. Birds flew in chaotic patterns. Dogs barked at the sky. Whales washed up on shores. Within days, the Earth's magnetic field began to shift. Compass needles trembled like frightened insects. At night, people saw things in the sky, thin lines of silver light, like scratches in the air. Sometimes they moved. Sometimes they flickered like signals. No one understood them. Scientists cried on live TV. World leaders held emergency meetings. Religious groups declared the end times. Children asked their parents if everything would be okay. And above it all, the black sun kept growing larger, climbing toward Earth's orbit like a silent, watching eye. When the black sun finally entered the solar system, the real sun dimmed. Not completely, just enough for humanity to notice. Days became colder. Shadows grew longer. Plants turned pale. Solar power failed across half the world. Everything that relied on the sun began to fade. Some believed the black sun was consuming the stars' energy. Some believed it was rewriting the laws of the universe. Some believed it was alive. And then came the dreams. People across the world began to dream of a massive dark sphere floating above them. In the dreams, they stood under it, weightless, watching tendrils of shadows stretch across the sky. Some felt peace. Others felt terror. But every dream ended the same way. A whisper. A voice with no mouth. A message with no words. Prepare. Governments fell one after another. Economies crashed. Borders dissolved as millions fled from cities to open countryside, hoping distance from technology or power grids would protect them. But nothing protected anyone. The black sun pulled at the earth in ways no one expected. It did not cause earthquakes or storms. It caused something far worse. Silence. Radio signals faded. GPS systems died. Satellites stopped responding. It was as if the black sun was swallowing not just light, but information itself. People who depended on technology suddenly had nothing. The world shrank back into villages and wandering groups. But for some reason, the black sun spared one thing: human life. No mass extinctions occurred. No deadly radiation. No world-ending explosion. It simply watched. And waited. When the black sun finally reached Earth's orbit, it did not crash. It simply stopped moving, hovering like a dark moon above the planet. A shadow spread across the atmosphere, turning half the sky into a twilight that never shifted. People began to call the dark region the Shadowlands. The Shadowlands were not deadly, but they changed everything inside them. Plants grew differently, taller, darker, stronger. Water shimmered with a faint silvery glow at night. Animals behaved strangely, moving in patterns no biologist could explain. And humans began to change too. Some felt a strange energy in their bones. Some saw faint symbols in the air, shapes like spirals, lines, and circles. Some said they could hear faint whispers when standing alone. Governments tried to lock down the Shadowlands. They failed. People kept entering. Some returned. Some didn't. Those who returned were never the same. The first changed humans came from a small town in northern Canada. A group of children wandered into the forest near the border of the Shadowlands and were lost for 3 days. Search teams found them standing in a field of dark flowers, staring up at the black sun. The children were unharmed, but different. Their eyes reflected the world like mirrors. Their voices carried a strange harmony, as if something whispered with them. They understood complex ideas instantly. They spoke in patterns, short, calm, perfect sentences. Doctors were terrified. Scientists begged to study them. The world watched videos of the children speaking, and a new fear grew. Humanity was changing, and no one could stop it. The children called themselves the Reborn. They said the black sun was not a threat. It was an invitation. 6 months after the Reborn appeared, the black sun finally spoke. Not with sound. Not with radio waves. But with a pulse, a vibration felt in every bone, every structure, every grain of sand on earth. People dropped to their knees. Buildings trembled. The oceans rippled. The message was simple. Clear. Undeniable. Ascend. But no one knew what that meant. The Reborn claimed they did. They said the black sun had come to evolve humanity, to lift it from its dying world into something greater. But most people still feared it. They feared what rebirth would demand. Would humanity survive the transformation? Would individuals remain themselves? Or would rebirth mean extinction? These questions divided the world once again. As fear spread, so did fascination. People from around the world began traveling to the Shadowlands. They came in groups, carrying supplies, children, old parents, sometimes nothing at all. These travelers called themselves pilgrims of nightfall. Some came searching for healing. Some came searching for answers. Some came hoping the black sun would choose them to be reborn. Governments tried to block the borders of the Shadowlands, but it was impossible. Millions moved across broken highways and quiet fields, walking toward the dark horizon. They made tents along the border, forming ghost towns that stretched for hundreds of miles. Every night, they sat watching the sky, waiting for a sign. And often, a sign came. Thin strands of shadow drifted across the sky like ribbons. Sometimes they touched the ground, leaving behind glowing patterns in the soil. Plants sprouted overnight. Rivers shifted course. The air hummed like a distant song. The pilgrims whispered in awe. The soldiers guarding the borders trembled. The world watched through shaky recordings and grew even more afraid. One night, a girl named Mirren, one of the first reborn, stepped onto a small wooden stage in front of thousands of pilgrims. She looked fragile but carried herself with confidence beyond her years. Cameras streamed her image across the world. She spoke softly, but her voice carried across the fields. "Do not fear the black sun," she said. "It does not wish to destroy us. It wants to return what we once were." No one knew what she meant. Reporters shouted questions. Scientists demanded explanations. Mirren simply said, "Humanity was asleep. Now we are waking." Her eyes glowed faintly under the twilight. Her hands traced symbols in the air, spirals of light that flickered like holograms. "We were never meant to remain small," she continued. "The black sun is not a star. It is a doorway." A doorway to what? To where? She did not answer. But millions believed her. And millions more feared her. Not everyone accepted the reborn. Some groups saw the black sun as an invader. They called it a cosmic parasite, a threat to human identity. These groups gathered in hidden bases, building weapons, preparing to fight back. They named themselves the Dawn Guard, believing humanity must preserve the old ways of life. Their leader, Elias Ward, spoke to a desperate audience on a pirate broadcast. "We are being rewritten," he warned. "Changed from the inside. If we allow this, we will lose everything that makes us human." He promised to strike the black sun. He promised to save the world. His followers grew rapidly. In a matter of weeks, the world was split into 3 factions. The pilgrims, who sought transformation. The reborn, who guided the willing. The Dawn Guard, who prepared for war. The governments that remained simply tried to survive between them. Everything changed the day a beam of dark light descended from the black sun. It happened at dawn, though there was no real dawn anymore. A column of shadow fell like a waterfall, touching the ground in the center of the Shadowlands. Those who saw it described it as light made of silence. Anyone within the column of shadow vanished instantly. Some screamed in horror. Others cried in joy. Hours later, the first of them returned. They emerged from the shadow column slowly, walking as if they had been dreaming. Their skin carried faint glowing patterns, like tiny constellations. Their eyes shimmered with shifting colors. Their movements were smooth, almost weightless. They were not reborn like the children. They were something more. They called themselves transformed. One of them, a man named Len Vox, spoke calmly before a trembling crowd. "We are not gods," he said. "We are simply completed." When asked what happened inside the shadow, he answered, "We were shown what we could become. We were reshaped by choice." But many wondered, could such a transformation truly be by choice? Or was something rewriting their will? The Dawn Guard attacked only days later. Their drones entered the Shadowlands, dropping explosives on farms, forests, and small settlements. The blasts shook the twilight sky. The pilgrims fled in terror. The reborn hid the children. The transformed stood in silence, letting the smoke clear around them. But the Shadowlands defended itself. Without warning, tendrils of black energy rose from the ground, twisting through the air. Machines stopped working. Metal cracked. Drones melted like wax. Vehicles collapsed into dust. The Dawn Guard forces barely escaped. The message was clear. The Black Sun would not allow violence in its domain. But this only strengthened the Dawn Guard's belief that the Black Sun was hostile. And soon, the world moved closer to full-scale war. While chaos spread, a group of surviving scientists formed a new council. They called themselves the Scholars of the Dark Star. They believed neither the Pilgrims nor the Dawn Guard. They wanted truth, real, scientific truth. Led by Dr. Senior Kalen, they established a base not far from the border of the Shadowlands. Using old-world equipment scavenged from empty cities, they studied the air, soil, plants, and even weak energy pulses from the Black Sun. After months of research, they made a startling discovery. The Black Sun was not a weapon. It was not a star. It was not a creature. It was a forge. A cosmic engine designed to reshape life. But who built it? And why had it come to Earth? Their instruments detected a strange pattern, almost like a fingerprint, woven into the fabric of the Black Sun's energy. It resembled symbols seen in ancient ruins around the world. Civilizations long gone. Cultures erased by time. Stories of sky gods, night suns, and rebirth. Dr. Kalen whispered a chilling conclusion. The Black Sun has been here before. As the truth spread, humanity was forced to choose. To embrace the transformation? To reject it and fight? Or to stand between, waiting for answers? The world fractured even further. Millions joined the Pilgrims. Millions hid from the Reborn. The Dawn Guard prepared a massive attack. And the scholars rushed to find a final explanation before war consumed everything. Above them all, the Black Sun pulsed with growing energy. As if waiting. As if counting down. The countdown began without warning. One evening, as people across the world watched the sky, the Black Sun brightened, not with light, but with motion. The surface rippled like liquid shadows. Patterns stretched across it like veins awakening. Then came the pulse. A shockwave of silent energy spread across the earth. It wasn't destructive. No buildings fell. No storms formed. No one died. But every living human felt it. A vibration in the ribs. A whisper inside the blood. A faint image flashing behind the eyes. A doorway. A path. A choice. Animals froze. The oceans calmed. Even the wind paused. Children cried without knowing why. Elders whispered prayers. The Reborn stood still and listened. The Pilgrims knelt, trembling. The Dawn Guard panicked, thinking the attack had begun. But the pulse did not harm anything. It had one purpose. To announce that the time for transformation had truly begun. The pulse terrified the Dawn Guard. Elias Ward gathered his commanders and shouted over the radios that still worked. "This is the final stage. It's rewriting us. We attack now." His followers cheered with desperation. They prepared a massive caravan of armored trucks, stolen military gear, and experimental weapons that had been hidden from the world after the collapse. They moved in the night, headlights off, engines low, toward the border of the Shadowlands. Their plan was simple. Strike at the Black Sun with a missile built from the last remnants of old-world technology. A weapon meant to pierce dimensional barriers. A weapon too dangerous to exist. They called it the Spear of Dawn. As the convoy approached the Shadowlands, the land trembled. The shadowed plants bent away. The sky pulsed softly, as if warning them to turn back. But they did not turn. They crossed the border. And the Shadowlands woke. The Dawn Guard found themselves in a landscape that defied logic. Trees rose like columns of black crystal. Their branches twisted and formed archways as if they were corridors instead of forests. Pools of liquid silver reflected skies that were not Earth's. Every step echoed strangely, as though the ground remembered the touch of their feet. Soldiers whispered nervously. Some heard voices calling their names. Others felt memories slipping through their fingers. Elias Ward shouted at them to stay focused. Then the forest shifted. Branches moved without wind. The shadows thickened. Shapes emerged, tall, humanoid silhouettes made of swirling darkness and faint blue light. They did not attack. They simply watched, standing in absolute silence. One soldier fired in panic. The bullet dissolved in midair, turning to dust. The figure stepped forward, not threatening, but warning. Elias Ward screamed for everyone to push forward. The Dawn Guard charged deeper into the unnatural forest. The Shadowlands allowed them to pass. But the soldiers did not know the truth. The Black Sun was letting them come because the time for judgment was near. While the Dawn Guard marched toward destruction, millions of pilgrims gathered in the open plains near the center of the Shadowlands. The air shimmered with soft black light. The sky bent into spirals. The earth glowed with thin, twisting lines like circuits beneath the soil. Mirren, the young Reborn leader, raised her hands. "The doorway is opening," she whispered. She pointed to the center of the sky, where a massive spiral began to form inside the black sunlight, not bright, but deep and warm, flowed outward like liquid night. The transformed knelt. The Reborn reached upward. The pilgrims wept with hope and fear. A beam of dark light descended again, but this time, it did not come for a few. It came for all who were willing. Anyone who stepped into it felt weightless, as if floating in warm water. Their minds filled with visions of distant galaxies, ancient civilizations, and luminous beings made of ideas instead of flesh. Some fainted. Some laughed with pure joy. Some saw their past lives, their future selves, their hidden fears. But none were harmed. Those who emerged were changed. More graceful. More aware. More alive. Humanity was beginning to rewrite itself. Dr. Senior Kalen and her team watched the transformation from a distance, recording everything with shaking hands. Their instruments captured impossible readings, bending of space-time, living particles, patterns that matched no earthly physics. Then the final piece clicked into place. The Black Sun was not a machine created to conquer worlds. It was not a weapon. It was not even a single object. It was a seed. A seed planted by a long-extinct species that traveled the stars, uplifting primitive life until it could stand as equals. The seed had awakened because humanity had reached the brink: war, climate collapse, extinction. It had come to prevent the destruction of intelligent life. But the seed could not force evolution. It could only offer it. A choice. Dr. Kalen whispered to her team. "This is not the end of humanity. This is the end of what we used to be." Deep within the Shadowlands, Elias Ward and his followers reached a high ridge overlooking the Black Sun. It hung like an enormous black world above them, spirals of shadow rotating slowly. Ward ordered the weapon prepared. It took dozens of soldiers to assemble the Spear of Dawn on the rocky plateau. As they worked, their equipment malfunctioned. Screens cracked. Circuits burned. But the weapon held together long enough for Ward to climb into the firing seat. He raised his hand toward the sky. "For the memory of humanity," he shouted. "For our right to remain unchanged." He pressed the ignition. A column of blinding white energy shot upward, screaming toward the Black Sun. The entire Shadowlands shuddered. The night sky twisted. And the Black Sun opened. A vast circular iris of darkness peeled apart like the petals of a flower. The energy beam slowed, stretched, and vanished into the opening without leaving a mark. Then the Black Sun sent an answer. Not a beam. Not a pulse. A wave of pure shadow descended gently over the mountain, touching every Dawn Guard soldier like a soft breeze. There was no explosion. No screams. Just silence. When the shadow lifted, the soldiers were gone. Only Elias Ward remained. Kneeling. Breathing. Alive. But changed forever. Ward rose to his feet, trembling. His eyes reflected the night like silver mirrors. He looked at his hands as if seeing them for the first time. The Black Sun had not punished him. It had shown him what he feared most. And what he could become. He fell to his knees again, whispering through broken sobs. "We fought the wrong enemy. The war was over. The world just didn't know it yet." News of the failed attack and the disappearance of the Dawn Guard spread across the world like wildfire. Screens flickered with shaky footage. Radios crackled with shocked whispers. People who had lived in hiding began stepping outside again. For the first time since the Black Sun arrived, fear weakened. And in its place grew curiosity. Millions of humans, farmers, workers, elders, children, began walking toward the Shadowlands. They carried no banners, no weapons, no flags. They came simply because they felt drawn to the sky as if something deep inside them whispered, "Come." The pilgrims welcomed them. The Reborn guided them with calm voices and gentle gestures. The transformed stood silently along the paths, watching with eyes that glowed like distant galaxies. It became the largest gathering in human history. A crowd stretching across the plains. A sea of faces looking upward. A hush falling over humanity as if the world itself held its breath. And above them, the Black Sun pulsed slowly, rhythmically, like a vast heart preparing for its final beat. In the center of the Shadowlands, Mirren stood atop a dark stone platform that had risen from the ground only hours earlier. It was smooth, warm to the touch, and covered in spiraling patterns that moved like living ink. She placed her hand on it. Instantly, her mind filled with visions. An ancient civilization made of light and shadow. Beings who shaped stars like clay. Worlds reborn again and again. Species uplifted from stone tools to interstellar consciousness. And then she saw Earth, broken, burning, struggling. The vision whispered, "You were not the first. You will not be the last. But you are ready." When the vision faded, Mirren opened her eyes. Tears glowed on her cheeks, not from sadness but from overwhelming clarity. She turned to the gathered humans and said, "The Black Sun does not want worship. It does not want surrender. It only wants to open the next door. But we must step through it together." Her voice echoed across the plains. For many, it was the moment everything changed. The sky darkened further, but not with fear. The Black Sun's spirals spun faster, forming a massive vortex that stretched across the heavens. The air vibrated. The ground hummed. Thin strands of shadow lifted like gentle ribbons around the people. A circle of pure darkness formed beneath the Black Sun, floating above the earth like a portal of living night. Inside the circle, stars shimmered, stars that did not belong to any known galaxy. Some people cried. Some gasped. Some held each other, trembling. Dr. Senior Kalen arrived with her team of scholars, carrying recording devices and notebooks filled with frantic handwriting. She stared at the rift with a mixture of terror and awe. "It's a bridge," she whispered. "A bridge between what we are and what we could be." Her assistant asked softly, "Do we go through?" Dr. Kalen hesitated. "No," she said. "We go with." Far from the main gathering, a figure walked slowly across the plains, illuminated by faint silver shadows. Elias Ward. His steps were unsteady, but his eyes were clear. When he reached the edge of the crowd, people stepped aside, whispering his name. Some recoiled, remembering the destruction he caused. Others watched him with curiosity. He approached Mirren at the platform. "I was wrong," he said quietly. "Everything I feared was a reflection of myself, not of the Black Sun." Mirren looked at him kindly. "You feared losing humanity," she said. He nodded. "But humanity is not our bodies. It is our will." He knelt before her. Not in worship. In acceptance. "I am ready," he said. The crowd murmured. Some were shocked. Some were relieved. But the moment he lowered his head, the platform responded. A beam of shadow light wrapped around him. When Elias stood again, his eyes glowed with a soft silver light. The harshness was gone from his face. His voice was calm, steady, almost gentle. "I can see clearly now," he whispered. "We will not be erased. We will be completed." As the rift widened, a deep resonance spread across the land. It wasn't a sound, but a feeling, an invitation. The Black Sun's voice filled every mind on Earth. Not words. Not commands. A single understanding. Choose. People felt their hearts tremble. Families held hands. Strangers embraced. The Reborn stepped forward. The transformed stood tall. And the ordinary humans glanced at one another, uncertain. Dr. Kalen stepped onto the platform next to Mirren. "We must give them truth," she said. She raised her voice to the endless crowd. "Transformation is not death. It is not forced. It is not a trap. It is evolution. You will remain yourself." But with senses opened, minds expanded, and fears made silent. She looked around. "But if you choose not to change, the Black Sun will not harm you. You may live as you are. The choice is yours. For the first time in years, humanity realized it had a future. A future shaped not by fear, but by decision. The beam of shadow light descended from the rift, illuminating a path across the plains, soft, dark, shimmering like moonlight made solid. Mirren turned to the crowd. Whoever wishes to begin, she said, step forward. A child stepped first, a small boy holding his mother's hand. Then a young woman. Then an old man with trembling knees. One by one, people walked into the light. Their bodies glowed softly. Their eyes brightened. Their posture straightened. They were not erased. They were amplified. And when they turned back to the crowd, they smiled, truly smiled, cleansed of centuries of fear. The crowd erupted in awe. More stepped forward. Then more. And more. The transformation had begun. Humanity was not dying. Humanity was being reborn. The great beam of shadow light deepened in color. It no longer looked like light or darkness. It looked like something new, something alive, something that recognized every person who came near it. The air around the beam felt warm, humming with a heartbeat that did not belong to a creature but to the universe itself. Lines and symbols floated around it like drifting ink, circling the beam in slow spirals. They responded when someone stepped closer, shifting shape as though reading the person's emotions. When a woman trembling with fear approached, the symbols softened into curves. When a young man filled with curiosity touched the light, the shapes burst into bright spirals. The beam welcomed all. And no one who stepped inside returned weakened. Not a single one. Those who emerged from the beam, the awakened, shared similar experiences. One woman described it as stepping into a memory the universe had forgotten to give us. A child said, "It felt like someone teaching me how to breathe, but with my soul." Most awakened reported seeing visions. A world with twin suns. Tall structures that lived and breathed. A rivers that sang. People shaped of light. A sky filled with symbols instead of clouds. Dr. Kalin recorded each testimony, piecing together the truth. The black sun was not only a seed. It was a teacher. A guide carrying the memory of a species far older and wiser than humans. The awakened were not becoming aliens. They were becoming the humans they were always meant to be. Humans capable of surviving more than one world. Humans capable of understanding more than one life. Humans capable of reaching the stars. Not everyone stepped into the beam. Some remained at the edges, watching from a distance. They were not afraid, not angry, just unsure. A farmer named Joras sat on a worn blanket with his family, staring at the glowing path. His daughter asked if he was going to change. He smiled gently. "Maybe someday," he said. "But I want to watch the new world grow first." The black sun did not punish him. It did not pressure him. It simply pulsed with quiet understanding. A group of elders stayed behind, choosing to pass the rest of their days in peace, in the world they understood. A few scientists remained unaltered, wanting to study the transformation from the outside, believing their role was to record the birth of a new era. And the Reborn assured everyone, "There is no deadline. The door will remain open. You may choose when your heart is ready." Humanity, for the first time in centuries, had freedom without fear. When the Dawn Guard collapsed, many feared their scattered members might retaliate. But Elias Ward, now awakened, walked into their hidden camps with no weapon, no soldiers, and no anger. Those who saw him froze in shock. He looked the same, but at the same time, entirely different. There was no hatred in his eyes, no pride, no fury. Only calm clarity. He said, "I saw what we were meant to become. We fought the future because we feared losing the past. But the future does not erase us. It completes us." One by one, the Dawn Guard lowered their weapons. Some walked toward the Shadowlands. Some fell to their knees in tears. A few embraced Ward, trembling. For the first time since the collapse of civilization, a military force laid down their arms willingly. And a war that could have ended humanity ended instead with understanding. The black sun's energy spread slowly across the atmosphere, not like radiation but like a soft wave of evolution. Plants grew faster and healthier. Diseases weakened. Polluted rivers cleared as if filtered by invisible hands. Animals moved with new instinctive patterns, more balanced, less violent. The earth healed. Not instantly. Not magically. But clearly, steadily, undeniably. Forests glowed softly at night with bioluminescent leaves. Fields sprouted crops that grew with half the water, Birds flew in sweeping, synchronized spirals, painting patterns in the sky. And beneath the ground, ancient seeds long buried began to sprout for the first time in millennia. Humanity watched in awe as the planet prepared for its next chapter. A chapter where life itself was more alive. One night, the stars flickered. At first people thought it was a strange atmospheric effect. But then the constellations changed. Entire star patterns shifted, forming new shapes in the sky, shapes that matched the symbols seen inside the beam of shadow light. The black sun pulsed 3 times. Once for the earth that was. Once for the humanity that struggled. Once for the future opening before them. A deep, resonant hum swept across the planet. It vibrated through stone and soil, through water and air, through every heart and every mind. Then everyone heard it. A voice, not frightening, not loud, not commanding. A voice familiar, ancient, kind. The path is open. Walk without fear. You are ready. And as the voice faded, the rift widened fully. A swirling gateway to a brighter night. A new sky. A new beginning. Humanity stood on the edge of a cosmic doorway. Some already awakened. Some waiting. Some choosing to stay unchanged. But all of them united in the same moment. The moment humanity stepped out of its past and into its future. A group of awakened walked to the center of the glowing plain. Their bodies shimmered with soft light. Their eyes reflected galaxies. Their movements were like the flow of air. Mirren led them. Dr. Kalen walked beside her, her scientific instruments humming faintly, full of questions she finally felt ready to answer. Elias Ward followed at their side, no longer a man of war but a guardian of peace. They stood at the threshold of the rift. The universe on the other side glittered with colors unseen in human history. Blues too deep for oceans, golds too bright for sunlight, shadows soft enough to feel like warm velvet. Mirren reached out her hand. The light touched her fingers, wrapping around her arm like a gentle ribbon. She turned to the crowd. "This is not the end of Earth," she said. "This is not escape. This is expansion." She smiled. "We walk forward for all of us." And with one step, she crossed beyond the black sun's threshold. Humanity gasped. And then cheered. Because they knew. The future had finally opened its door. The storm winds around the black sun grew louder as the remaining signal pulses shook the valley of echoes. The sky flickered like a broken lantern, switching between brightness and darkness in an uneven rhythm. Every time the light dimmed, it was as if the world sank into a deeper silence. But nobody turned back. They had come too far. Ilara led the group toward the ridge that overlooked the Citadel of Remnants, the last structure built by the ancient humans before their downfall. The citadel did not look like a building. It looked like a gigantic, half-buried machine, with walls shaped from melted stone and metal fused by unimaginable heat. The black sun hovered above it like a dark crown. Lauren walked beside Ilara, hands trembling slightly. "Do you feel it?" he whispered. Ilara nodded. "The pulse is stronger here. This is where the truth waits." Mirren stayed behind them, keeping close to the younger survivors. "If anything moves," she said, "stand behind me. Nothing comes between us and survival." The ground trembled as another ripple of darkness passed over the valley. The black sun's shadow stretched, swallowing the rocks in front of them as if it were drinking the world. When the shadow touched their feet, the group froze. They felt nothing harmful. No cold, no heat, no pain. It was almost gentle. Lauren's voice shook. "It's calling us." Ilara closed her eyes and nodded. "Yes. This shadow, it's not death. It's memory." The idea seemed impossible, but everything around them had already proven that the old laws of nature did not apply here. They continued forward. At the base of the citadel, they found a massive door made of black stone. It was flat and without markings, except for a single circular indentation in the center, exactly the size of the crystal sphere Ilara carried. She lifted the sphere. Its silver light pulsed in time with the black sun. "Are you sure about this?" Mirren asked quietly. "No," Ilara admitted. "But I know we must." She pressed the sphere into the indentation. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the stone door trembled, and a soft hum filled the air. Lines of light spread outward in delicate patterns, forming shapes that resembled constellations. The door separated into 2 halves that slowly slid open, revealing a long corridor glowing with dim silver light. The survivors stepped inside. The air was warm and strangely sweet. The walls of the corridor were made of a material they had never seen, a mix of glass and metal that seemed alive. The light inside shifted like flowing water. Lauren touched the wall. It rippled under his fingertips. "This place is reacting to us," he murmured. "Or remembering us," Ilara said. At the end of the corridor, they entered a massive hall shaped like a dome. In the center stood a large circular platform, surrounded by floating shards of silver metal. Each shard emitted a faint glow. On the platform lay a small, delicate structure resembling a cradle made of light. Ilara felt her breath catch. This is what the first humans built to outlast extinction. Lauren walked slowly around the platform. A machine capable of holding genetic memory. It recorded everything humanity once was, our thoughts, dreams, failures, and hope. Mirren frowned. Why build something like this? Ilara ran her hand over one of the glowing shards. Because they knew the end was coming. They knew they could not save themselves, but they believed future generations might rise from what they left behind. Lauren's eyes widened. The black sun, it wasn't a weapon. It was a source of power for all this. The truth settled over them like a warm blanket. The shadow was not destruction. It was preservation. Another pulse rolled through the chamber, stronger than before. The shards around them lit up, and the platform began to project a hologram of swirling symbols. The survivors watched as the symbols slowly rearranged themselves into a human figure made of light. The figure spoke in a calm, gentle voice. "Welcome, children of the new dawn." The survivors gasped. Ilara stepped forward. Who are you?" "I am the echo of humanity," the figure said. "A memory preserved in the black sun's shadow. The last gift left behind by those who came before you." Lauren swallowed hard. "Why now? Why reveal yourself to us?" "Because you are ready," the echo replied. "The world you knew was broken, not because nature wished to end you, but because your ancestors feared their own mistakes. They hid their wisdom within the shadow, waiting for a generation capable of compassion and unity." The survivors listened in stunned silence. "You," the echo continued, pointing gently toward them, "are that generation." The light in the room grew brighter, and the figure gestured to the cradle on the platform. "This device contains the genetic seeds of a world restored, plants, animals, medicine, knowledge. A new earth can be born from this. But it requires living guardians to awaken it." Mirren stepped forward. "Guardians like us." "Yes," the echo said. "You have proven strength, resilience, and heart. You have walked through darkness and still chosen kindness. That is why the shadow guided you here." The group looked at each other, unsure whether to feel honored or overwhelmed. Ilara felt tears forming in her eyes. All our suffering, all our loss, it was leading us here. "Yes," the echo said softly. "You are not the last survivors. You are the first architects of the new world." A deep silence followed. For the first time since the black sun appeared, hope felt real. The platform brightened further, and the cradle released a soft, melodic tone. "It awaits your choice," the echo said. "If you activate it, the world will begin to heal. The black sun will fade, and true light will return. But the process is slow. It will take generations, and you must be its caretakers." Ilara stepped forward without hesitation. "I choose rebirth." Lauren joined her. "So do I." Then Mirren. "We survived too much to stop now." One by one, the survivors placed their hands on the glowing cradle. A surge of warmth spread from the platform and filled the room. The shards above them spun faster, forming a halo of light. The black sun outside pulsed once, then twice, then slowly began to shrink. A new dawn was coming. And humanity was ready. The chamber shook softly as the cradle of light awakened. The survivors stood around it, feeling the platform warm beneath their hands. The swirling halo of shards above them spun with increasing speed, each one leaving trails of silver light across the air. Outside, the black sun continued to shrink. Its massive dark sphere, once terrifying, now looked like a melting shadow dissolving into the sky. Ilara watched through the open archway, her breath trembling. "It's really happening," she whispered. "The world is changing." Lauren nodded, unable to tear his eyes away. "We're watching the end of the old era." Mirren crossed her arms, but a rare smile touched her lips. "And the beginning of something better." A final deep pulse echoed across the valley, gentler than before, almost like a farewell. The black sun flickered. Its surface rippled. Then, slowly, It collapsed inward like smoke being pulled into a point. A bright ring of silver light burst outward, washing across the sky. The darkness lifted as if peeled away layer by layer. For the first time in generations, true sunlight touched the world. The survivors shielded their eyes. They had never seen real daylight, only the pale imitation filtered through the black sun's shadow. This light felt warm, honest, alive. Mirren stared upward, breathless. So that's what the sky used to look like. The clouds glowed orange. The mountains shimmered. A soft breeze carried scents of earth and stone that had never felt so vivid. The black sun was gone. The ancient echo's final words. Inside the chamber, the echo of humanity watched the transformation through the shimmering projection of its eyes. Its form grew fainter, the silver lines that shaped it beginning to dissolve. Ilara rushed forward. Wait, are you disappearing? Yes, the echo said gently. My purpose is complete. The shadow has lifted. The knowledge and seeds of life have been placed in your hands. You no longer need echoes of the past. Lauren's voice trembled. Will we ever see you again? No, the echo replied. But my memory lives in the world you build. Teach your children what we forgot. Guide them where we failed. The shards above the platform lowered, hovering just above the survivors' heads. Each shard, the echo said, is a key. They hold the patterns of life, flora, fauna, medicines, and the lost sciences. Use them wisely. Mirren touched one shard gently. It hummed like a heartbeat. And if we make mistakes? You will. But that is the nature of living beings. The important thing is that you learn. The echo's light dimmed. You are humanity reborn, it whispered. Go forward. Grow.